Aloha and welcome. This is Diane. This is Goddess Unleashed. This is my podcast. This is actually the pre-show. The real interview starts at 2:15 with Ken Walls, and I'm super excited. One of the things I wanted to get out of the way before I even start is I haven't been to BNI in a very long time. I used to be really big in BNI and always go to my meetings. So I want to do a little shout out to my Gables Rainmakers and give them a little commercial, because that's what we used to do back when I was on BNI every single week. And then I had to take a break in order to publish my book and get some things done. So good morning, BNI. This is Diane Vick from Diane's Wellness. And the secret to bringing fireworks back in the bedroom and the lioness in the boardroom happens in my 7-day stress cleanse. So I definitely do invite you into that 7-day stress cleanse so you can bring sexy back and fireworks in the classroom. But you will definitely learn more about the secrets that I've been sharing with Ken in my 7-day stress cleanse when we are talking on the show. I'm very excited, but before we can even start this interview, one of the things that I practice and that I preach is you need to relieve some stress before you do something really big. So one of the things that I do all the time is called dance release. I have TikToks that I've shared a bunch of times, and I use music to release that energy from the body to stop us from getting frozen and stuck and stopping us from doing things that make us uncomfortable. One of the things that you may not realize is that being seen and being heard is the biggest fear that I have. And it is something that I've been working on for the past few years. Funny thing is, I was going to wear my wig and I didn't even put it on, which is good. I'm still going to keep my little cheerleader self and do this anyway. I'm going to go ahead and pump myself up until Ken comes in, doing a little dance routine, being silly with music. And then we will start that interview promptly with Ken at 2:15. Hopefully you can hear this clear. I was testing it before, and I don't know if you will hear it. So if you can message me, whoever is watching, put a little message in there that you can hear the music. Today is going to be a good day, right? I don't need no fortune cookie to tell me the way I'm feeling. Gonna be a good day, a good day. I feel good too. Ooh, tell me everything, but I regret nothing. Ooh, I feel like $1,000,000. Shout out to my BNI people. This one's for you. Today is gonna be a good day. Don't care what anybody else says. Oh, I don't need no fortune cookie. Neither way I'm feeling, gonna be a good day. A good day. I'll tell you, the secret to making it a good day is shifting your mindset, because your number one obstacle is your mind. And until you switch that, you will not accomplish your dreams. So definitely stay tuned for the interview that's going to happen in a few minutes, because Ken is, I swear, a master about mindset. He is amazing inspiration. I literally met him 2 weeks ago, and I'm excited to interview him on this podcast. He interviewed me last week on his, and it was an amazing experience. But we are in this book called The Crappy to Happy series, and it is an amazing book about inspirational stories, people that hit rock bottom, transform their lives, and change things for themselves. But they had to make that choice to change, and that is what this podcast is going to be about. Now let's find another song to see how I can de-stress a little bit more before Ken signs in. Ooh, I like this one. Walking on Sunshine. I hope you can hear it. You walk on my door. Every time, mailbox, gonna hold myself down. You're coming around. walking on sunshine. Ah, wow, wow, feel good. The secret to feeling good is definitely trying to shift it for yourself when you're feeling rotten and feeling crappy. So music is a great way to do that. I love to share songs and ways to use music to release stress from your body. That's one of the things that I love incorporating with my clients. But this is the song that really has transformed things for me. It's the song that I dance to right before I go on and actually dance to it before I actually started this live stream. And it is by Katy Perry. And it's about, we've messed up, we've screwed up, we've made all of these mistakes in life. But once we hit rock bottom and make the decision to change, we can find our smile again. Yeah, I'm grateful. Scratch that, baby, I'm grateful. Been a while, but now I got back that smile. I'm so grateful. Scratch that, baby, I'm grateful. Got that smile, smile. Groundhog Day. Not myself. Felt like I failed the test. Yeah, I'm grateful. Scratch that, baby, I'm grateful. Smile, smile. Grateful. That smile, smile. Humble by. Save my life. Yeah, I'm grateful. Scratch that. Grateful. And now I got back that smile. I'm so grateful. Scratch that. Grateful. I got that smile. Grateful. 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 Because finally, grateful. Who's feeling grateful today? I am. Oh, it's only a few more minutes left before Ken logs in. Super excited to interview him today. But before I do that, why am I dressed up like a cheerleader? I feel like there's a story I need to tell. I call it my cheerleader for life story. Funny thing is, I have been stopping myself from actually publishing an article that I wrote for Catalyst 360, and I'm going to write it by Friday. I'm going to give myself that deadline. Hi, Ken. How are you? But first, before I let Ken in to the studio, I'm going to share my little story. If I could go back in time and tell my 15-year-old self something, I would tell her this quote by Walt Disney. If you can dream it, you can do it. Because back then, that little girl wanted to become a cheerleader, but she was too stuck in self-doubt, self-limiting behaviors, and overwhelmed that she chose to hide and progressively lost her dream to become a cheerleader and gave up on things. What that ended up causing inside my body, which now that I've learned how to transform that, has become something I'm very grateful for, is that when you give up on your dreams, you actually strangle your body and you create havoc in your body with stress, which causes symptoms like overwhelming anxiety, chronic indigestion, chronic digestive issues, and chronic pain, which is where I came from. Thankfully, I don't have those symptoms anymore. And now I'm not a cheerleader in high school, but I'm a cheerleader for life because I believe if you dream for something and you reach for those dreams, you can accomplish anything and regain control of your body. Now, I'm gonna flip this camera and sit down and invite Ken in. And I'm kind of out of breath, but I'm excited to interview him. So let me go over there. There we are.
Hey,
Hey, Ken.
how are you?
I am great. How are you?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Just ate.
Good. Well, we
Yeah.
are live. I'm excited to start off this interview. I'm going to wait till exactly 15 to officially start so that I know what to tell the station. But we can chat before. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Have you done a lot of stuff today, I'm sure?
What's that?
Have you been doing a lot of interviews and things?
I was just on an interview with, I was just interviewed at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, me too. I was
Mhm.
interviewed at 1.
Nice.
I'm trying to fix my lighting because I'm kind of dark. It's like raining here in Miami,
Mm.
and the lighting is not ideal in my room. That's better. A little better. There is stuff falling all over the place. Woo! I was dancing. I don't know if you saw me.
I hopped on right there at the end. Yep. I shared it out.
Cool. All right, let's move this over so we get more light. I think that's a little better. And here we are. Aloha, this is Diane, Goddess Unleashed, and I'm so excited to interview Ken Walls on my podcast today. He's a fellow author that is in the book of the Crappy to Happy series, which is being published by Sacred Stories. It's an amazing book about inspirational stories of people that have really transformed their lives from crappy experiences or super overwhelming things and transform themselves using the power of their mind. And I would say Ken is definitely a huge inspiration. He is an inspiration to me. I literally met him 2 weeks ago, and I'm super excited to bring him on this show. Thanks for reminding me that we have to shift that mindset and push ourselves to do things that make us a little uncomfortable. Let me introduce Ken. So Ken is a best-selling author and CEO founder of Client Solutions Innovations. He inspires and transforms lives through his podcast, Breaking Through Walls with Ken Walls. And I was on the show last week, so that was a lot of fun. And he uses his 30 years of business experience and mindset tactics to help clients tackle their obstacles and take their businesses to new heights. Ken, can you introduce yourself and we can know a little more?
You just did. That's it. That's all I am. Great show. Thanks for having me on.
No, I'm telling you, I'm super excited. I was so pumped today, even though, our resistance kicks in and stress kicks in and our triggers happen. So I was definitely making sure that I did my self-care stuff today to get on here with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the CEO and founder of Client Solution Innovations. My podcast my show is Breakthrough Walls. I've interviewed about 300 celebrities and entrepreneurs over the last 2.5 years. And I'm known as the connector. I help people connect to the right people. That's one of the gifts I've been given, and I use a lot. And so as a result of that and having a giving heart and soul, I've become known by a few people.
By a few people. I say you're known by a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I had my buddy Grant Cardone came on my show last week and or came on a live stream with me and he's Forbes magazine says he's the #1 social media person to follow in the world. The dude has millions and millions of followers and fans. And, about 6 years ago, I was sitting in Grant's office in Miami and he coached me. He's like, look, this is what you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. And now he charges, it's $100,000 to get signed up with coaching with Grant, if you want one-on-one coaching. And he, I won a trip on his private jet. It's a long story, but instead of getting on his private jet, I said, I'd rather just fly to Miami and spend one-on-one time face to face with Grant. And they were like, yeah, that's great. And so it changed my life. And, I was 46 at the time, I think, somewhere in there. And but it completely rocked my world. It changed everything for me. Hey, there's my buddy Doug Wing.
Hi, Doug.
Going to Utah next week, or next weekend to see Doug. But so Grant talks a lot about, you got to get attention. You have to get attention, and you have to do it the right way. And so that's what I do. I go out and make waves, and I help people make waves and get attention at the end of the day. That's it.
I love it. I love it. I heard that episode actually today. I was listening to that interview with him and his challenge that I think is happening right now. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Doing that challenge for free.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's going to be an awesome challenge. It starts, I think Monday.
Oh, okay. So check out the challenge. It's on Grant Cardone's website, right?
Yeah, it's grantcardone.com/challenge, I believe, is the website address. Yeah, and you sign up for free. It's a free challenge over 10 days. He's got some big names coming on to do that too. So it's pretty cool.
That's exciting. You've interviewed a lot of really transformational people. But if you would have to think that there's someone that you haven't interviewed yet, who would be like your utmost person that has transformed you that you would want to interview on your show?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know what's wrong with the sound.
Okay.
But I think you said who's the most transformational person I've interviewed?
Yeah, we could go.
What's that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've to say it's one person is almost impossible. I've had Andy Frisella on, who's a huge celebrity and does $300-400 million a year in business. His interview was just unbelievable. Mark Victor Hansen, the co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul, he holds the world record in number of books sold on planet Earth with 600 million books sold, which is incredible. These are some, and I'm friends with a lot of these folks now, and which blows me away. Like, I'm not, I was always the guy that, I could be in a room filled with 100 people and feel completely alone and out of place. And to be able to pick up the phone and call Mark Victor Hansen on his cell phone and he answers, or Doug Wing. Doug Wing's father is the founder of the Little Giant Ladder Company, which is the third largest ladder company in the world. And Doug's a really good friend of mine and client of mine. And, so like just the people Jeffrey Gitomer, like the people that I'm surrounded with now are just, for the longest time, I thought they were out of my league, to be quite real. And here I found out that they're just really, really good people, just like me. They're just people. They're good people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone's human. We all have challenges. We all have obstacles. So it's amazing that you have that opportunity to interview all of these phenomenal people to just keep pushing you upward. I would say if I had a dream to interview someone, which I mentioned it on your show, would be Deepak Chopra, because he really transformed it for me when I started meditation. Because I had no idea how to do it. I couldn't shut off my mind. My ADHD would just like go on overdrive, and he really transformed things for me.
Yeah, Deepak's the real deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know that you had some rock bottom moments, and I feel there's a big connection to make these big changes for ourselves. Is that there's a mind, body, and soul connection, and usually that happens when we hit rock bottom. And I know your Crappy to Happy story happens to talk about that rock bottom moment. Will you let them know a little bit about your story?
Well, I was raised in a bit of a tumultuous environment. Um, and eventually the pain I was carrying around and the fear um, was I needed to deal with it, and the only way I knew how to deal with it was to anesthetize it. So I did via alcohol, and a lot of alcohol. The very first time I was arrested was 12 years old. It was a very dumb thing that I was doing, just playing around, messing around in a building, um, and I was kicking holes in this old abandoned building, and found out later that it was in fact being remodeled, and we didn't know, me and my cousin, and so it's a long story, but it just the things that occurred early in life set me on a path of self-destruction, and not just destroying myself, but relationships and friendships and marriages, and all of the things that anything good that came into my life, I drank it away. And at 34 years old, I was sitting on a bar stool and in a bar, and I think I was on about my seventh beer, I believe. I was drinking the tall glasses of draft beer, and I was about halfway through, and this guy sits down and says, so I put in my 2-week notice. I can start in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, oh, cool. Where are you starting? I'm like, well, what are you talking about, dude? And he's like, with you. And I go, with me what? And he goes, you told me that if I put in my 2-week notice, you'd hire me as your head technician. I go, no, I didn't. I said, I'm not hiring. I'm downsizing. What the heck are you talking about, dude? And he's like, are you serious? You don't remember the other night? And I go, remember what? What do you? And apparently I was drunk and I didn't remember this. And I told him that I would hire him. And, he got pissed off like big time. And he's like, everybody around here knows you're nothing but a worthless drunk. Why don't you go get some help? And he got up and left. And I remember it was like, everybody's like, oh, the ego separates you from God and blah, blah, blah. And I disagree with that. I think we have an ego for a reason. And the ego can be a very good thing. It can be a motivator. It can also be a destructive thing, but it can be a motivator. And at that moment, I was sitting in a very high-end bar. It was in Jack Nicklaus, the professional golfer, has a community here north of Columbus called Muirfield, and that's where his home course is that he built, and so this is a very upper end area, and I'm sitting in this bar, and I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, I wonder if anybody else heard him say that, and I was like, and I really felt like there was this giant spotlight on me all of a sudden, and everybody in the place was looking at me, and I was like, what the heck is going on here? And I took a sip of my beer, and I still had half a glass left. I paid my tab, and I got up and walked out of that bar. Hey, there's Pam Aubrey. And I walked out of that bar, and I said, I can't keep living like this. I got to make a change. And so I went back to my hotel room because my ex had thrown me out because I apparently showed up at her girlfriend's house one night. I don't remember, with a 12-pack and ideas. And my ex didn't care for that, I guess. So she, very politely asked me to leave. Not really. She wasn't polite about it, but she said, get out. And so I went and lived in a hotel. And, I that moment that moment, that night, I laid on this hotel bed, and I remember I closed my eyes. I started crying, and I said, well, I won't say everything I said because I had it out with God. Me and God had it out. and I said, I mean, you know, God's a little bigger than I am, but we had it out that night because I said, you know, addictions are choices. I'll address that in a second. But I said, God, I can't do this. I can't do this. I need your help. If you're real, I need your help. I am not capable of turning this off, and I don't know what to do. Please help me. And I was crying, and there's a lot of other things I won't go into. But the next day I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it was in that moment that I surrendered to God and said, I can't, you can, so help me get out of my own way and let you, you know, fix whatever's wrong in my existence here. And that was the last drink I had was August the 10th of 2002. By the grace of God, a lot of hard work, recovery. You know, I have not had a drink or a drug or mind altering drug in over 18 years now. And, you know, I have, you said addiction. I forget what the quote thing was you had up there. Addictions are choices that can hinder your progress. Addictions are not, and there's two schools of thought on this. Addictions are not necessarily a choice. The addict and alcoholic, rarely do they have like this, like, you know, we don't wake up and go, you know what, I think I'm going to go out and maybe shoot some heroin today and see if I can just ruin my life. That's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a medical study I read about years ago that they said that in the addict or alcoholic's brain, there's a chemical that exists called THIQ. And the only way that they can discover if the addict or alcoholic actually has this chemical is during an autopsy. There's no other way to discover it. So you can live your entire life maybe carrying this addictive this chemical in your brain and not even know it, and wonder, well, why am I so addicted to drugs or alcohol or whatever? Like, I have we've all heard the addictive personality thing, right? I have a very addictive personality. I can become addicted like that. So, you know, I don't know that it does become a choice, but the first part is an alcoholic or an addict needs to learn to surrender to a power greater than themselves. And I think that that's only possible once we've experienced enough pain. Pain is the predecessor of all wisdom. I don't think it's like saying, hey, you know, Diane, that burner over there is hot. Don't touch it. And you go, what makes you think it's hot? Maybe it's hot to you, but it's not hot to me. You know, your brain may start. And the only way you're going to learn is if you actually touch the burner or get really close enough to feel that that's hot. You don't want to touch that, right? So it's through our own experiences that pain, I believe, that makes us go, okay, this is not working. And I got to the point where I was drinking a whole bottle of Crown Royal and plus a 12-pack of Bud Light, sometimes less, sometimes more. But every single day of my life, I lived in a blackout. It's called a brownout, where you go days and days and days not remembering anything that happened in those days. I was running a business, trying to. I was doing everything from the outside. Again, it looked somewhat like I had it together because I had a beautiful office, drove a Mercedes, my ex had a Mercedes. We had the big house. I mean, from the outside looking in, it looked like, wow, this dude's really got it going on here. But, the people that really knew me knew that, I was in a tailspin. So I had to surrender. That's what I have a chapter in my first book, Walls of Wisdom, Turning Pain into Profit. The chapter is called Surrender. You have to, at some point, you have to surrender to a power greater than you. And people that say, I don't believe in God, that's okay. God doesn't care. God doesn't care. I truly believe that.
Yeah, you just got to find what you believe in and choose something. Like for me, covering up the pain meant eating a lot of things with sugar. And I started covering the pain back in high school when I couldn't become a cheerleader. And that progressively caused autoimmune disease and tons of problems. And the self-esteem went down the drain and my body failed for it. And it stopped me many times from achieving my dreams. But I had to make the decision to stop covering up with sugar and sweets to actually transform that mindset and really get to the root of the problem.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'd say support is a huge part of it. What would you say is your biggest recommendation as to supporting someone through a journey like that?
I mean, I didn't have any support. I was forced to rely on God and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that got me through a lot of pain. And again, it's like, I heard because I was in treatment back in the year 2000. I went through a 28-day treatment program, and I remember hearing that the word sober, SOBER, was an acronym for son of a bitch, everything's real. And because like all of a sudden you're sober, you're no longer anesthetizing yourself. And now you have feelings and you have to deal with those feelings, and they're real. And they're in my case, it was the first time that I ever remembered dealing with feelings, like really being in the feelings and experiencing them. And so, you do have to have support, but everybody in my life outside of the program I was in had walked away from me. My family, everybody, no friends, nothing. The only thing I had to rely on was my belief in a higher power outside of myself. And that's for me, that's the bottom line. I had to surrender to something outside of me and seek answers and wisdom outside of my understanding.
I think that was beautifully said, that we have to just surrender and find what do we believe in and work our way through the pain. And it's not always an easy journey, but we have to make that first step for ourselves to really change things for ourselves.
Yeah. Yep.
I found it interesting when I was listening to your interview of Grant Cardone, because you mentioned, and you said it here too, your journey started when you were 34, and so did mine. So my story is actually when I was 34 years old, my husband was always traveling. I was pretty much a single mom Monday through Friday. The kids were little. One was 5, one was around 3. And I remember picking him up that day from school and being so stressed out, having chronic pain in the middle of getting a master's degree. My body was falling apart and I couldn't even deal with the kids. And I had to tell my oldest, look, you need to take care of your brother. I don't feel well. I'm going to lay down. And it progressed into my 5-year-old bringing mommy Gatorade, giving me Tylenol, and taking care of me. And that's when it shifted for me. I was like, this is not what I want my kids to be doing. This is not the way I want them to experience life. And that's my rock bottom moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. So everyone has to find what is their rock bottom, what is their where they don't want to be, and then begin to shift from there. And the first step is the way to start.
I think, the other thing is we do have, there are tools available. And it's just like I have a course teaching live streaming and interviewing and everything else. It's a tool, and it's a tool that's a very, very valuable tool. And I have huge celebrities using my training that they're in it, right? And but if people don't pick it up and use it, I'm sorry, I have dogs barking.
It's okay.
Sorry. So I think that was the UPS guy or something. But I forget what I was saying. My God.
The tools, using the tools that you have.
Right. Oh, the tools. So like, I've had people that like get like my training and then they don't log in and actually take the training, and they just try to go out and fumble around and do it on their own without professional training. I get that, because for many, many, many years, I actually fumbled around trying to quit drinking on my own, and I couldn't do it. I could not do it. And so we've got to use the tools as human beings that are put in front of us. And when you use tools, you can shorten the cycle of pain. And so, for example, you've mentioned rock bottom several times. I know some alcoholics that did not hit rock bottom. They were headed down towards rock bottom, but they chose to stop the elevator and get off and work their way back up. I know addicts that were headed down to rock bottom, but they didn't get all the way to rock bottom. Rock bottom to me is death, right? Like, you're dead. It's too late. It's over. Game over. So for me, I think that if we can learn how to start using the tools that are made available to us, they're everywhere. It's not just addicts and alcoholics and people suffering from eating disorders or anything else. It's every human being on this planet is suffering in one way or another with some form of, well, maybe not every, but 99.99% of us have some sort of an insecurity, some sort of deal that we need to, or issue that we need to deal with. Like my dogs, for example, we need to deal with them. But like, we all have these things going on in our lives that we're not dealing with, and the tools are right there. I can't show you my office. There are books literally everywhere. People send me their books all the time, and I love it. I just can't read them immediately, but people send me their books because they want to be on my show and talk about the books, or they want to do an Amazon Live. Again, pick up a book and read books, use the tools, get the training, get what you need to be better than you are today. And for me back then, 18 years ago, the only tool that I knew that would give me a chance was Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the only tool I was aware of. And so that's what I did. I went to AA and I used the tools and I did exactly what they told me to do, and it worked. And so far, so good.
Absolutely. And we have so many opportunities to use tools. I think we have social media. We have podcasts that we can follow. There are YouTubers that are influential that can support you in whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So it's finding that person that you can connect to that maybe had that same challenge that you have to get you through it until maybe you can invest in something that's a little bit more meaningful that really can support you more. But there are so many tools out there.
There's a lot. Absolutely.
I've been watching you on social and stuff, and one of the things that I love, that I think you talked about him as well, is Joe Dispenza. So I talked about Joe Dispenza, and I've seen his Rewired, and I think he's revolutionary, and how he talks about the mind and how we have to control the mind. And I know you're big on mindset.
Yeah.
What do you think is a secret to transforming that negative mind? Like, I called mine Negative Nancy, and I would say you have Negative Norm. There's a negative person inside our head. What would be your tip for that negative mindset?
You have to counteract it. It's just like drinking or drugging or whatever. You have to replace it with something positive And for me, it's just like I wrote about it in my book, in Walls of Wisdom. I said, I wake up every morning to judge, jury, and executioners. And they all want me to just stay in bed, die, go away, all of those things, those voices, and they're not voices. It's the stories that we're telling ourselves. And Joe Dispenza talks about, we have 60,000 thoughts per day on average. And excuse me. And, that 90% of the thoughts that we have today are the same exact thoughts we had yesterday. And out of those thoughts, 50% of them are made up. We're embellishing things. You might, stub your toe or something in the morning, and then later in the day, you're telling somebody you broke your toe. You didn't break your toe. You stubbed it, and it just hurts, But, we embellish things. We blow them out of proportion. And then we start believing those lies. And so the only way that I know of is through positive affirmations. I just said this on a podcast earlier. Excuse me. And this guy, was asking me about, I'm like, dude, it's the I am statements. If you are focused on creating your own, that's what I finally realized. And it was through Grant Cardone and some other people, but I realized that I actually can create my own reality, that I'm not just like this wandering, I'm not, the movie Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, John Candy says, I'm like a twig on the shoulders of a mighty stream. I just go with the flow. And that, I think, is how most people live their lives. They're like, I'm just a twig on the shoulders of the mighty stream of life, and I'm just going with the flow, man. And we're going to make it all cool. It's going to be cool, man. And no, that's not the way life works. Those people, a lot of them are broke, or you go, hey, let's go on vacation, and they can't. Oh no, I got bills to pay. I got to work. I got kids. You can intentionally create any kind of life that you want to create. And I didn't believe that at first. I really didn't. I was like, wait a minute, man. Wait, hold up. That is maybe real for you, but you don't understand my circumstances. And I went into my excuse mode. Well, excuses are just an option we have. And most of us use them all the time. Yeah, we're reliving the story, right? Over and over and over. And I've relived my story over and over and over to the point of it paralyzed me. And who likes to be paralyzed? Nobody. I didn't like being paralyzed, but I didn't know that I could actually create my own reality. I could create the life of my dreams. I didn't realize it. And now I do. I can create whatever I want.
Oh, absolutely. I think we all have that possibility in there, but we have that fear that I call it the inner child that places the resistance. Because I definitely know that mine turns on every single morning, and I got to make sure I make an effort to turn her off. And I live in gratitude every morning. And I think visualization, like Joe talks about, is so powerful. If we could just lay down in the bed a little bit longer, do some breathing, do our meditation in that moment, and shift it to gratitude and start to imagine your day how you really want it to play out, it will really change how it plays out, because now you're giving yourself a new story.
Yep. Yeah. I think that again, I'm the first thing I do every single day of my life is meditate. First thing, I wake up in the morning, I get a cup of coffee, and I sit Indian style in a dark room with my noise canceling AirPods in, listening to some kind of really super soft, low volume music of some sort. And I go in and I just listen to God. And I think that people do not understand the power of, we can call it whatever you want. I don't care what you call it. Meditation, listening, quiet time, whatever you want to call it. But everybody when in the middle of a crisis, people start praying. And I call that talking to God. God, please help me, save me. If you help me get through this, I won't do it again, blah, 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 blah. And so we pray, trying to tell God exactly how he should be handling our life. And instead of listening, because God's constantly showing us, he's given us signs, constantly sending us the signs, sending us the signals, the right people come into our lives, and we ignore them. We don't pay attention. And as a result of not listening, it's like, well, I didn't hear that, so I'm just going to keep going through this painful situation because I didn't hear the answer. I didn't see it. I chose to ignore it. And if you stop and you quiet your mind, and again, I know there are Christians out there that and I've been like this, trust me, but there are Christians out there that are like, meditation, oh, that's that new age stuff. We can't have that. And I totally get that. I do. I get it. But instead of defining it, putting a label on it, how about just saying, I'm just going to go hang out and listen to God. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to label it as meditation. God doesn't care. All God wants is for you to hear what he, she, it is trying to tell you. And it's constantly, it's nonstop. It's nonstop flow of answers and energy. And we just need to quiet our mind and we'll have it.
Oh, absolutely. I think we get messages all the time, and our instinct is to shut it down. So my instinct was always to ignore my gut instinct, which is where my biggest problem stemmed from, is that I held myself back and I stopped my creativity and I stopped so many things when I was younger that my digestive tract basically fell apart, which is why I ended up writing my book, The Truth About IBS and Anxiety, is because that was my first biggest obstacle that I had to overcome. How do I live my life and digest my food and not be in pain every day?
Yeah.
And sometimes that is a message. Our body sends us messages in symptoms, and we need to pay attention.
I agree. Totally agree.
Absolutely. Well, I love that you are in my class and that you are watching some of the videos. And I have a question to ask you. Is there any symptom that you experience on a regular basis or some kind of pain? Nothing.
No.
That's awesome.
No, I mean, there used to be, but there's not anymore.
But that proves that the mindset is the biggest indicator of how you can transform the way you feel in your body. Because what happened to me this week, which you've been watching me in my group, so you see videos that other people don't see, is I've had reoccurrence of symptoms in my body. They went from neck pain to hip pain to some digestive issues. And that is because I was resisting these things, resisting going on social, resisting teaching certain classes. And every time that we resist something that we really want to do deep inside ourselves, it will create a message from our body. So I'm glad that you don't have any symptoms. That is amazing, because you are a rock star with your mindset.
Well, I don't, I'm not saying they never pop up, but I know how to handle them. So, yeah, I know how to handle when things are starting to go sideways like that.
Well, yeah, because you pay attention in the moment too. Because a lot of things, what happens is we ignore when we're getting a pain, we ignore that symptom and it begins to fester. And that's where chronic pain develops. I mean, that's where I lived for more than half my life. I was numb on the right side of my body for 20 years. And that was it. I was letting it fester. I was not letting myself live the life that I wanted. And it manifested in my body.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's all kind. Look, life is unfolding according to what is going on in your mind. People that are, for example, experiencing financial hardships, they're not plugged in. There's something unplugged. There's some kind of a block. Once you understand abundance, you should never, ever again have a financial challenge. Once you understand the energy of abundance and you're truly plugged into it and you understand it, you shouldn't be experiencing that ever.
So what would be a tip that you would give someone for getting into that mindset of abundance?
Meditate.
And how do you just sit there and meditate, or you just did you learn
I
from
do.
someone? Okay.
Sometimes, I had a friend who's got about 50 years in this deal, say to me, have you ever, because I used to just meditate to manifest. Dr. Wayne Dyer has an awesome meditation on manifestation. And I used to meditate only to manifest, and it works all the time. But this friend of mine says, have you ever meditated just to meditate? I'm like, what's the point of that? That seems stupid. and so I started doing that. And sometimes I just meditate most of the time, it's just I meditate to meditate. There are times when I may have a pain or a symptom show up, and I have to spend some time meditating on that and sending it, healing energy and love and things like that to make it stop. And it works. It's worked every single time in my experience. But then there's times when I just need to meditate and hang out and listen to God. And I may start off the meditation asking a question, like, something that I'm not sure of, or something that I just need an answer for, and I'll ask it, and then I just shut up and listen. And sometimes it's only 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but I listen. That's the goal, just to listen.
Oh yeah, I think it's a huge goal for us to listen, to sit back, to be quiet, and connect with ourselves in a deeper way, so that we can get the messages that we are missing when we don't have that quiet time.
Right.
I love how you talked about meditate to manifest. So before this whole COVID-19, I had been meditating that I wanted to be able to work from home. And then reality set in when I actually was working from home.
Yeah.
And I was stuck in this stress response.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's something that you do for yourself when you're feeling stressed out that helped you tackle that stress response?
Yep. I go do 25, 30 push-ups. I'll go outside for a little walk and spend 15 minutes walking. That's because I've worked from home for a long time. I mean, when I didn't even know we were having a shutdown until like it was here. And I'm like, what? We're shut down. What's that mean? I'm like, okay, well, so I'm here all the time anyway. But if I feel stress, which is rare that I don't get really stressed out. I think the political scene and some of that stuff, if I don't watch TV, but if I see certain posts and I think, God, this whole COVID thing and the response has been, I won't go into my opinion on all this. I'll just reserve it. But, I think that I get stressed out seeing some of the stupidity of other people sometimes, but, I can't control that. So I quickly come back to what can you control, dude? Stop trying to control God and other people and let them handle it. Just work on you. And so when I realize, and the other thing is nothing in this world, including us, nothing is permanent. We are all going to die. And when you realize that, nothing's permanent here. I'm only temporary. And if it's a big problem that I'm facing, I'll go, 200 years ago, how important was this situation? And 200 years from now, how important will this situation be? And the answer is 0 and 0. So do what you can to deal with the crap you got to deal with right now in this moment, and just keep doing your best. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz who was a Jesuit priest. The book is amazing. And it's always do your best is one of the agreements. Just always do your best. Does not mean, he didn't say always be perfect. He said always do your best. Sometimes your best is going to look like crap to the rest of the world, but it looks like you like just set a world record. And sometimes your worst is going to look like, wow, there's going to be people going, holy crap, you did that? And you're like, yeah, it sucked. And they're like, no, it didn't. It was unbelievable. And so, you know, I think that the best thing that ever happened to me was I was in an AA meeting and afterwards I'm talking to my sponsor, very, very wise old man. And he says, I said, well, this happened and my ex-wife said this and blah, 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 and all this. And I was blaming myself and I was beating myself up in this conversation. And he said, dude, I won't use the F word, but he said, put the blanking ball bat down. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, stop beating the crap out of yourself, man. Give yourself a freaking break, man. You're not perfect. Or you're never gonna be. And I've carried that around with me now for years, the ball bat analogy, because I think that many of us, you know, and it's like I have haters, which I love them, but I do have haters. And I find it funny because, you know, a hater, and I love what Grant said. He's like, you know, there's really no difference between the two emotions of love and hate. You know, hate is, I mean, if I don't love you, the opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. It's, I have nothing for you. It's not that I don't, you know, just because I don't love you doesn't mean that I hate you. So hate is just a similar emotion. It's just an emotion. So, you know, when you just focus on being the best version that you can be, period. Look, there's times when I'm like, because I don't sleep a full night hardly ever. I wake up to go to the bathroom, then my mind starts racing and I'm like, okay, fine, I'm up. So in the middle of the afternoon or the end of the afternoon, a lot of times I'll be like, oh my gosh, my eyes feel like there are bricks on the eyelids. Let me do some push-ups. Okay, that didn't wake me up. What do I got? I think what I need is a nap. And so I'll lean back in my chair and I'll take a 15 or a 30-minute nap. And there's been so many times when I'd start to doze off that the thought occurs to me, I wonder if Tony Robbins or Grant Cardone or you know, I wonder if they would be taking a nap. This isn't hustling and grinding. This is being lazy. And then and I'm like, shut up, go to sleep and stop it. You're tired. That's why you're talking to yourself like that. So I think we need to learn how to not be lazy, but we need to learn how to give ourselves a freaking break. And I don't mean just by napping. I mean by beating the crap out of ourselves with unrealistic expectations.
Oh, absolutely. I think we're really, really rough on ourselves and we put ourselves down. And I love that 4 agreements. That's one of the first books that I heard on Audible that really helped me transform that mindset and start working on that. And another thing that I would say is not only do your best at whatever you're trying to do, but praise yourself for it. Even if it was a crappy day, but you accomplished something, you need to praise yourself for it because you did a good job. And we don't do that enough. I
agree. I'm trying to find this show right now. And oh, there it is. So yeah, I totally, yes, I totally agree with all that. Totally agree. I'm trying to find, why does it not say we're live on my phone? I guess we are. We are. Yeah.
It is. It's live.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I was going to go back to the movement and motion for stress relief. So I know a lot of people are experiencing stress right now and they do feel overwhelmed. You're lucky that you are on that shift, that you have changed that mindset and your body is responding to it. But an essential component for us to work through the stress is to get into motion and to stop ourselves from laying down on the couch or staying on the bed. We need to make sure that we are getting up, that we are doing some exercise, that we are moving. And if we do feel pain, then it is time to either sit back, do a little meditation, and ask yourself, why am I feeling this pain? Because your body and your mind will connect and you will get an answer. There's likely a situation, a conversation, or something that triggered an emotion, and it's time to release it. And focusing on that, visualizing to release it, is a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit more about your book, because I know it's a bestseller and I want people to go check it out. I actually want to check it out. So let us know about your book.
It's Walls of Wisdom, Turning Pain into Profit. It's on Amazon. You can actually, if you live in the US, you can get the PDF copy for free. I think you text the keyword book to 33777. Text the word book to 33777 and you'll get the PDF copy of my book for free.
That's awesome. I think that's a great opportunity for people, if they're looking for a little bump in their step, a little mindset shift, that they read things that are empowering to them.
Yeah.
If you could recommend another book, a book that's really revolutionary, that you have it somewhere in your house, what book would it be?
Oh my gosh. I have so many amazing books. In fact, I recommend most of them in my Amazon store. But the first book that came to mind was a book that I read many years ago called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And I love that book simply because, honestly, the very first step is take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. And that means everything. Absolutely everything. And so when we take 100% responsibility for everything, well, there's 63 other steps in this book that are principles in this book. I think 64 total, I believe. Don't hold me to that, but it's like that book just woke me up. It completely woke me up because people love to play the victim card, and I'm guilty of it. Like and people use that as manipulation to get attention. And that's the worst way to get attention. Manipulating people by playing the victim card is not the way to get attention. But yet we do it, and most of us learned it. It's a learned behavior from childhood. So, going through that book, it was life-changing. But there's so many other books. The Little Red Book of Selling by Jeffrey Gitomer is an amazing book. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, absolutely amazing, life-changing book. The How to Win Friends and Influence People. Beyond Positive Thinking is a great book. And in fact, it's almost always right next to me. Yeah. Mark Victor Hansen's book. There's so many books that I read all the time. I mean, I'm a high school dropout. I had to, and I always remember thinking, first off, my last assistant is an attorney and practiced law for many years and then worked for me, and I'm a high school dropout. And I've had many college graduates with master's degrees and PhDs and worked for me over the years. And I'm a high school dropout. I did not get a GED because I always felt like that's an admission of failure. I don't know why, but I walked out in 12th grade when they said that I didn't get a biology credit. And I'm like, well, that's because I hated biology. It's a stupid class and I'm never using that in real life. So give me the piece of paper saying that I aced calculus and everything else. I mean, and they're like, no, you have to have it to graduate. Like, well, that's stupid. The rules are stupid. This institution is stupid, and I'm out of here. And so I left and never went back. But I remember thinking and I mentioned this earlier on the podcast I was on earlier. I remember thinking at some point in my early 20s, maybe even late 18, 19 years old, thinking, where do all these ideas come from? Like, who wrote the history book? And where did that dude get the information? Who taught him? And how's this all being disseminated? And why are we buying into this BS education in a box thing? This is insane. So I just said, I'm just going to read my face off every single freaking day of my life until I figure it out. Well, I still do that because I haven't figured it out yet. But I don't even know how many books I've read. I wish I knew. It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. I want to say thousands, but I don't know if it's thousands. I know it's thousands. It's got to be in the thousands. A couple, 2,000 or 3,000 books in my life. And most people can't say that.
No, I don't think that they can. I haven't read anything near that. I like to read, but I don't find the time to read as much as I would like to read.
But see, that's something else, is we can create time. And that didn't make sense to me until I met Grant Cardone. Again, I hate to sound like this guy's a god to me, but he's not. He's just like he's got a lot of crap figured out. And he's like, bro, you can create your own time. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? But then I remember later hearing Dr. Wayne Dyer talk about Deepak Chopra was his mentor. And he would call Deepak and say, you know, I got this going on. This guy, I can't. And he'd say, Wayne, you need to meditate. You don't understand, Deepak. I gotta go, blah, 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 blah. And he'd say, Wayne, meditate. And then he'd hang up on me. And he's like, whenever I feel extremely overwhelmed and like I can't get everything done that I need to get done, which includes reading, by the way, for me, when I can't get to everything, I stop and meditate. I get quiet and I ask for guidance and I ask for help. Look, this book that Mark Victor Hansen and his wife just recently released, Ask: The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. And Mark and Crystal are really dear friends of mine. And this book, it talks about asking God, asking yourself, and asking others how to do all of that. And people miss that in life. We miss that. So I've always thought, like I said, to finish my thought from earlier, I've always thought these books that our kids, that they're teaching us as children, these books that we're learning from, that are 20 years old by the time we get to the social studies class or, whatever, like that's a 20-year-old textbook. What am I going to learn that's new? Especially today with technology moving at the pace that it's moving. And we're trying to teach kids out of 20-year-old textbooks, even a 10-year-old textbook. You go back 10 years or 15 years ago to a textbook in school right now, you don't see anything about Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. You don't see any of that. None of it, because it didn't exist. But yet we think we're going to teach people something out of that. So I always think, where did the thoughts originate? You got an MBA? Who taught you? Who taught you? What did they teach you to get you the MBA? And where did they learn it? And where did the person before them learn it that taught that person that taught that? Where did it come from? Where is the origination? And why are we not talking more about how to be creative and originate our own thoughts?
I think that's so true. One of the books that I've been reading now is The Game of Life, and it was written so long ago. It was from 1925, I believe. And it all started with mindset and using affirmations. And these are things that have been around for so long, but we don't look at the stuff that was from the past. We think it's not important. It's not a good thing to read, but that book is a really powerful book. I've actually been reading it very slow to help push me through. But it's something I try to read at least once a week. And then I'm almost at the end of it. So I think that's another great read. Before we wrap up, where can people follow you and
Yeah, I got a call in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So follow me just go to kenwalls.com. And if you want a free PDF copy of my book, Walls of Wisdom, Turning Pain into Profit, just text the keyword book to 33777. And it automatically sends you a link to download the PDF version of my book. And so, look, Diane, I really appreciate you having me on today and letting me, rant and rave and all that stuff. So I appreciate it. And I see some friends of mine, Tammy and Pam and Doug Wing. I don't know if he's still on here or not, but thank you guys for jumping on. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for making your comments. Thank you, Ken, for being on my podcast. This is Diane Vic. Aloha.